That's it, man. That second half was a lot better, and to be honest, a little bit surprising considering how useless and depressing that first half was, man. Real talk. But I'm glad in the end we saw goals scored by Tyrique George, his first goal scored for us this season. See the emotion on his face. Look how happy he was. Look how much that meant to him. And I was really pleased for him, really glad for him. He's had a few opportunities, especially in the Conference League. So that will do his confidence a world of good to finally get his first Chelsea goal in his young career. Hopefully, that's more goals to come in his future. Fingers crossed. And of course, goals coming from Noni Madueke with a brace today. I thought his first finish, of course, receiving that pass from Jadon Sancho, it was intelligent. Like he fooled the goalkeeper, he gave the keeper the eyes, and then just placed his shot in the opposite direction. And for the final goal, that's the type of goal I'd love to see Noni score more of, just arriving at the far post. Of course, the Warsaw defenders didn't know who was supposed to pick him up. And I feel like Noni could maybe get a few more goals in his career if he can learn to just time those movements at the far post even better to really give us that outlet, right? Because I think keeping it brutally honest and real, he is our best winger, our most effective one. And I think now with his brace tonight, it officially means that he's outscored Nico Jackson, who hasn't scored since Brentford at home back in December. So, we can't be taking for granted what he's been offering us this season. Hopefully, there's a lot more to come from him and the entire team. Now we got Ipswich after this game. That's where our attention has to be on. I think that was quite clear in terms of the amount of substitutions that Maresca ended up using in the second half in particular. But what was it to say, man? We've essentially booked our semi-final spot in the Conference League, and I'm not being arrogant, but honestly, if we don't end up winning the Conference League by a pretty healthy and significant margin, then there's serious conversations to have at this club. But those conversations won't be here tonight because that second half at least showed a bit of something that that first half criminally lacked. I was in a dark place in that first half. It doesn't help that I've not eaten food the last 4 days. If you guys are unaware, I've been doing a water fast. I break my fast on Monday. It's been a tough day today, I'll be honest with you. I don't know why. It's been tough and I'm really persevering through. So yeah, maybe my emotions are a bit heightened if I'm sounding a bit mad in this review. But that first half was everything wrong with our football club. And it got me thinking. We have kind of been synonymous with sufferball over the years under different managers. Like when their systems work, my lord, is it exciting? Does it produce the goods? But when it's been sussed out, when teams have a game plan against it, oh my lord, we have no ideas, no imagination. And I don't know why we've been a club that's been synonymous with this type of ineffective football at times. I'm looking at times, and I'm stressing times, under Tuchel, under Conte, under Sarri, under Mourinho. There's another one I'm probably forgetting. It's just been this level of game that I've seen over the years with my football club. And it's funny because we've spent the most amount of money signing attacking players because us as a fan base always fool ourselves into thinking, no, it comes down to the attacking players that we have not being good enough to make sense of the system. And it's never been the case. And I'm making this point, you guys, to really compare the first half and the second half, because you know why there was a big difference in terms of us finally looking like we had actual ideas compared to that first half where everything was sideways, backwards. Spam a line breaker to Cole Palmer and hopefully he can fugazi up something out from nothing to try and do something for us. When you're playing against a team like Warsaw, who, for all the energy they put in defending off the ball, they had no confidence on the ball. They didn't do anything to really cause us any danger whatsoever. It makes you realize that we can kind of become this impotent team due to our tactical approach. We force this tactics game where it's our tactics versus the opposition's tactics. And too often, we have to win the tactical battle to get the results. Sometimes it shouldn't be like that. And this is where I want to discuss the differences in the second half, because it simply comes down to keeping the principle simple, not overcoaching. You're seeing Sancho coming inside on the left, Noni Madueke coming inside from the right hand side. You saw Gusto actually playing as a fullback instead of being in the pockets, instead of being in midfield. You saw Tyrique George, of course, playing up front, allowing Nkunku to play deeper in a more natural position for him. And outside of our defense being maybe the only positions on the field that had a bit of like rotation, this type of balance made sense. Why does it make sense? Because the relationism between the players actually favors their instincts. It actually favors how they play, what they do. And in tandem, this means that the connections become stronger and everything becomes a lot better. And it's got me thinking, I feel like at times with Maresca, listen, it's been good and bad and ugly. It's normal in a season like this, but when things haven't been working for us, there's been this tendency to constantly overcoach, overdo the tactics, and you end up seeing this type of nonsense where all of a sudden you're seeing fullbacks in attacking positions. You're seeing number 10s playing up front. You're seeing fullbacks in midfield. You're seeing wingers swapping positions. I mean, maybe in the lab, in theory, something's supposed to happen here, but in reality, when you actually apply what the game plan is, it doesn't work. And it got me thinking, the only reason why it's worked at clubs like Man City, but we've seen interesting things like John Stones turning into like one of Europe's best midfield players for the second half of that season. They won the CL, where they've seen Gavardio as like a winger at times. When you've seen Bernardo Silva drop deep in the pivot, or Nunes playing at fullback, like all these little things. Do you know why it works for them when they play the game this way? That is simply based on the fact that their squad has been together for over 4 years. So when you've understood each other's game to a T, down to the minute details, of course you can afford to take advantage of these certain tweaks that are going to surprise the opponents, because your players' understanding of each other's games, the system and everything, it allows you to try those crazy type of things, right? That's how I see it. But for us, when you're Maresca and you're introducing this complicated style right from the start, it's no surprise why the application and the end result on the field is nowhere near the same and isn't as good. And this is why you see the players a lot of times forced to play the safe pass, the obvious pass, because those connections don't really exist. That relationism that they want to have. And what I mean by that, you guys, is simple examples like a fullback that overlaps and a winger that comes inside. That is like a principle, right? That is like the relationism that allows these guys to play to their best instincts, to do what they have to do without having to overthink all the time. And this was what was criminally lacking, in that first half. And in many halves, in many games of football during the second half of the season, where we've looked like a team that has no ideas or looks incredibly one-note, we're making the same mistake again where, you have to blame the players for not being good enough. No. Compare the differences, as I'm stressing, in that first half performance and that second half, where a few more players found themselves playing in more favorable positions, alongside favorable connections alongside them. And look at the difference you saw. Jadon Sancho getting 2 assists. In that second half, I thought it was a really smart pass to find Madueke, and I thought it was another good pass across goal to produce a second one for him. I think that was Noni. I think that was him. I can't even remember now, this flipping fast man. But he did not have those possibilities down that right-hand side, because every time he received out wide, he was isolated by himself, and the rest of the team, for some reason, kept moving inside. It was like, how are you ever realistically going to get a goal in this game if you maintained how we played in that first half? So credit to Maresca. He clearly knows how to switch things up, and most times he switch ups, as we saw last weekend as well, it brings a bit of inspiration. I'm just unsure as to why he is doing this thing where we have to try and win games now in our final 45 minutes. I understand that with this negative way of playing, it does make us more defensively solid, calm. But I mean, surely, know when to play that way, right? like know when to apply that way of playing. Like I don't mind if we're ending games playing this way in our final 4 games in the league, because we're gonna have to be smart to get the results to guarantee CL football. I'm calm with that. But in these types of games, man, where you don't really have to do any of that, Tyrique could have maybe started up front the entire time. Something that actually makes sense playing up front because he has the legs in behind. Yeah. you know, this Gusto keep on playing this guy in midfield when his passing selection isn't perfect all the time. He's forced to be on the ball way too often than he has to. And he's forced to find himself in these shooting positions where I'll be surprised if we see Gusto score 1 goal before this season ends, because that is not his game, especially in those areas, right? It just makes me a bit puzzled as to why we keep on forcing this type of way of playing at times. But I don't know. Hopefully, as the months go on before the season ends, things do make a bit of sense. But it was only my observation that I wanted to share with you guys, because I just feel like when you're going to introduce this like 4D intricate detail type of football, that requires so much time and understanding. Like more time than these guys will ever get to understanding before the season ends. And as we saw in that second half, when you just, simplify the principles, yeah, increase the connections between the players, use them in their favored zones, etc., etc. You see what we can really do, and you can see like the talent of the players really shining through, because we absolutely just destroyed Legia in that second half. And this is what we were expecting to begin with, right? So that's what I have to say. But before I end things, of course, I want to say a big shout out, actually big shout out, like I know the guy. But I want to give praise to Josh Acheampong. We can't forget this kid, man. Paris Saint-Germain and big clubs are looking to make moves for him for a reason, because this guy is such a natural football player. I think the skill I love about this kid is his first touch into space. It's just like a video game. It's just so crisp, so on point, so reliable. And if you are a person that's never seen us play before, or never heard of Acheampong, you would have just mistaken him for a midfield player, especially when you're comparing him to the performances of Amugu, who, listen, he won't be here next season, but I think, when you've got like Keanu Dyer and flipping Samrak Zaki, why are they not getting minutes over this guy? I'll never understand certain decisions, yeah? But when I'm seeing Acheampong, a defender, looking more natural than a midfield player, it really sums up the talent he has. And again, he's another guy that we can't afford to mess up with now, as we've done with guys that could have probably helped us, like your Lewis Halls once upon a time, etc., etc. So it's great to see that we ended the game on a strong note with a strong academy influence, and just going back to some common sense ways of playing to get the result. Because sometimes, man, when you're a fan, you completely you get fooled into thinking that our players are not as good enough when you see them struggling against the level of opposition in Legia, when that is not the case at all. And I think that the coach, sometimes he has to just like reduce it a bit and not over system and over tactics and overdo everything. So that's it, my friends. Share your thoughts and opinions. Who was your key performer today? What's one thing you like and one thing you didn't like? Let us know below, and I'll catch you all tomorrow with some more videos.